couple waiver moves that happened just recently were Kevin getting Andy Dalton and Benjamin Watson, Tommy getting Tyler Eifert, Doug got Jakeem Grant, Timmy got Ryan Grant, and then Scotty got the Chargers defense, Fitzmagic, and Tavon Austin. Are there any one of those guys that you feel are going to have that big of an impact this year?
Yeah, I'll go. So I think Eifert, if he can stay healthy, he's kind of getting back to that role that he had as a legit red zone guy. So Tommy might have a little something there. Ryan Grant. I was thinking Corey Grant. Ryan Grant sucks. Jakeem Grant, I spent like a fairly decent amount of fab on him. I don't know what he is. Never even really seen him play. But anybody he like kind of flashed, and in this dynasty format, I feel like those kind of guys, you don't come across them every day. So I felt the need to spend a little bit on them, and we'll see what we've got.
Yeah, well, you were the only somebody that put a waiver bid on him, so nice job blowing your load on that.
Gotta shoot your shot.
I don't think anything here really stands out. I do agree with Tyler Eifert. However, I see he's only playing maybe like, a third of the snaps, maybe 40% of the snaps, unless he is going to turn out to be that red zone threat that they've always envisioned him to be, and also what he's produced like in the past. He's not going to get a lot of volume, so I think that's a little hit or miss, but it does have a high chance of hitting because of his previous performances. I also think Ben Watson was a good pick too. Although he's not getting a lot of volume, he's on the field the entire game. So I think defenses are going to pay more attention to Michael Thomas. They have to try and stop Kamara, and I think Ben Watson, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with any tight end. You score a touchdown, you're going to be a top 5 tight end. That's pretty much about that. Now we're moving on to week 3 matchups. So the top matchups that we had from this past week was Timmy versus Tommy, then Doug versus myself. The limp dick matchup was Brian versus Nick for the battle of the 0-2s. And then the other 2 matchups were Kevin and Sean and the Beaties versus Scotty. So we'll start off right now in regards to Doug versus me. I fucked up. I didn't play a couple guys that would have had, that I had in basically the entire time until 5 minutes before kickoff. And you're welcome for subbing them out, dude.
What I will tell you about this matchup is that I too was wrong. I declared that this would be a tight matchup, and quite frankly, it was a pounding. These are things that happen to guys who say things like, I don't know, you can't compete for a championship, yada, yada, yada. And then my team just shows up week in, week out. I've got the 3rd highest points. I'm 2-1 with the most points against. Just got guys who show up and play. I'm getting some production out of a lot of these rookies. This Will Fuller guy, yeah, well, Deshaun Watson likes him, and he just balls. Gets hurt a lot, but if he's on the field, he scores touchdowns. He goes for 100 yards. These are things that he does. Mahomes, not slowing down. This guy's awesome. Glad I held on to him for the entirety of his rookie season without him playing, just kind of on a whim, and now he's maybe the best quarterback in the NFL. Who knows? Tyler Boyd, guy got off waivers. These are guys who just showed up to pound the commissioner, and now here you are. Now we're both at 2-1, and I'm heading in the standings. So thanks for coming.
I still stand behind you not competing for a championship. When you're talking about your team being one of the top teams, and both you and I are 2-1, and we're only 1 game ahead of Scotty's team, who we've been bashing, from the beginning. Yeah, I think it's a little too early to say top team or title contender. Plus, you almost lost to Scotty in week 1. You only beat him by 4 points. So I think you need to stop drinking the Kool-Aid because it may be spiked. Yeah, my team didn't show up. I didn't get a lot of touchdowns out of the guys that I expect to get touchdowns out of. And when you bench Matt Ryan, who throws 5 touchdowns, and Adrian Peterson, that goes for 24 points, you're probably going to lose on more occasions than not. So would you want to do a board bet of your record versus mine by season's end. If $20, I end up with a better record than you, and since you already have the head-to-head win against me, the only way I could win is if I have a better record.
Yeah, so I'll take the bet, but a tie goes to me.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you have the head-to-head against me, so the only way I win is if I actually have a better record.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't understanding. Yeah, I'll take that bet all fucking day. 40, call it 40, so I can make up for the two that I'm probably going to lose already.
Yeah, you're definitely going to lose those. Sammy Watkins is trending, and is Devontae Freeman actually playing?
The Freeman one, man. I am not a very smart man, but I do not know what love is. Yeah, he's done. Sparkley's sick. I fucked up. My bad.
All right, so let's go through these other matchups real quick. So Timmy versus Tommy. Tommy pulled out a surprising win. Actually, I think there was 3 matchups where there was the dog that pulled off the W. You were one, Tommy was one, and Scotty was the other one. But going to Tommy's team versus Timmy's, yeah, it was a surprising win from Tommy's end. He had a lot of his guys. I don't have the matchup up. Do you have the matchup up?
I do.
All right, why don't you go into it?
Yeah, I mean, Tommy pulled it off. I don't like Tommy's prospects the rest of the way, to be honest with you. He's got some nice pieces at receiver, but I think you got 15 out of Marvin Jones. I don't know that you're going to get a whole lot more than that from him. That might be his ceiling with the emergence of Galladay. Yeah, he's starting Safarian Jenkins at tight end, Marshawn Lynch at running back, and I don't know how many times Lynch can theoretically get in the end zone. Just not, he's out there, but he's definitely not 100% healthy. But that said, Tommy got pretty consistent production across the board. A lot of guys in double figures here. And then, Timmy didn't get a whole lot outside of Kamara, Gordon, and Thielen, and that's going to be a problem for him. Kenyon Drake, we documented, didn't do much. Pierre Garcon in the flex, not a great player anymore. He's starting Will Dissly at tight end. I couldn't even tell you what that guy looks like. Had a couple nice games to start the season, but kind of came back to earth. Both these teams with some holes, as do a lot of teams in the league. But Tommy pulled it out. Kind of surprising, but looking back, Tommy does have some nice pieces at receiver, so shouldn't have been too surprising.
Not too surprising, but I think we all saw the way that Timmy's team was rolling, and for his team to, not do terrible, but to have some disappointing outcomes from tight end and basically his entire flex, helped out Tommy to pull out a good win. But Tommy also put up a good point total of almost 140 points, so good for Tommy. I see Tommy, competing for a playoff spot as long as he gets production out of his running backs. So for Brian and Nick, we all saw this coming. Brian's got, one of the better teams. Although it wasn't that great of a weekly performance, when Nick gets 0 points out of his starting tight end and also a starting wide receiver, let's see, his other 2 wide receivers combined for 9 points, that's going to put you behind the 8 ball. So Brian just needed, good, not great performances out of his guys in order to pull off a win. So good for the kid to finally get off the schneid and get a win.
Yeah, much needed for Brian. Nick did have Vance McDonald and Jordy Nelson on the bench, which could have made it a little bit more respectable. As we've documented, he's got a problem at receiver. He's going to need to address it. He's pretty well off at running back here now. Burkhead out for the season hurts him. But, he's got some building blocks here that he can kind of try to build around. He's also got Baker Mayfield, a little bit of a silver lining there too. So we'll see. Brian's team, you look up and down and he kind of just got it done. Nobody stands out as having an awesome day, but everybody just kind of did their part, pulled their weight. Even Lamar Miller, Kareem Hunt got in the end zone. Landry going to be really nice, I think. Now going to get a ton of volume with Baker Mayfield. He's got Rudolph here too. He needs to figure out those flexes. He's got a lot of points on the bench here with Godwin and Crowell and Sanu. And really, I didn't even see he's got Calvin Ridley there too. So he's got some nice pieces to be able to work in. He just got to make some right decisions, and he should be able to get back into this race here.
Yep, Nick. Yeah, you're right. He did sit Vance McDonald. I think that was more of a glitch, not benching Jack Doyle, but I'll go on. But yeah, if he puts him and Jordy Nelson, I think he actually wins this matchup. Yeah, he wins the matchup. But I mean, you could say that any given week. If I would have started this guy over another, I would have won, or so on and so forth. So I think Nick's going to pull off a win sometime soon, but we'll see. We'll see. Moving on to Kevin versus Sean. I think this is another one that we saw, that wasn't really going to go down to the wire. Kevin's got a pretty good team. It's up there, in regards to the top 4 teams. I mean, Mike Evans had a great game. Juju, great game. Cam Newton, great game. Saquon. Now he's got Tevin Coleman putting up double digits, with Freeman out. Yeah, Kevin's going to, have these kind of games, on a weekly basis. So it's just whether or not teams are going to outscore him. I mean, you had, I think, 150 points against him last week, and he had 160. So, his team's point totals are definitely at the higher end than they are on the lower end. So whoever goes against Kevin needs to go into it thinking they need to score a minimum of 125 points in order to beat him. And when it comes to Sean, a couple good games out of a couple guys. James White, he's still going to have that pass catching role. Odell finally had, a pretty good game, but not a great game, not an Odell game. Golden Tate, 10 points. That's probably going to be around what he's going to score if he doesn't get into the end zone. Tyler Lockett, the more I watch Tyler Lockett, he looks like a 5 catch for 60 yards kind of guy, and it's great when he scores a touchdown. I mean, this is what I was saying before about all these, wide receiver 2s and how there's 40 of them because he's the number 15 wide receiver, and he scored every single week. Once he doesn't score, he's going to be an 8-point guy.
Yeah, you're right.
I'd be a little wearisome on Lockett, but he's producing. So, Sean, you take those points and run with it.
Lockett, I agree with you. It's going to be questionable if he doesn't find the end zone, although that's kind of who he is. He's like a deep threat. He just kind of finds a way. Interesting to see they get Doug Baldwin back this week, it sounds like, but they also get Arizona, and that generates a PP problem with Patrick Peterson. I don't know that they'll move Peterson around the formation to follow Lockett, especially if Baldwin is back, but that's a matchup that can be pretty bad for receivers. So, if he falls off this week, I think we can kind of bring him back to earth. But if he produces again, maybe it's sustainable.
Yeah, they don't really move Peterson anymore, or at least over the last 3 games. They kind of have him play the Richard Sherman role and just shut down one side of the field. So, but that's also the one side of the field that Tyler Lockett plays on, 90% of his snaps. So, not looking good for his outcome this week. And the last matchup from last week was the Beaties versus Scotty. This was an upset for sure. Nobody would have thought Scotty's team would have pulled off this win. And looky, we got Carlos Hyde and Sammy Watkins almost combining for 40 points. Wow, they suck. Wow. Yeah, that actually won them the game, or won Scotty the game. So you're welcome, Scotty. So we got those great performances at my so-called scrubs, as you mentioned last week, in Sammy Watkins and Carlos Hyde. Devontae Adams had a pretty good game. Jared Goff is probably the most underrated quarterback in the NFL. He's just putting up numbers in that offense. Whether he's good or bad, he's going to be putting up numbers. Breida had an okay game, especially since he left the game. Yeah, Scotty's team had a good performance, 120 points. Good for Scotty.
This matchup is funny when you look at it because both of the team names are a question, and Scotty's is it luck? The answer is yes, it is luck. And for the Beaties, what the fuck? What the fuck is right? They benched Drew Brees for Kirk Cousins, and if they just play Drew Brees, they win by 20 points. Like, what the fuck were they doing? Very stupid, not smart at all. Could be a situation where little bit of a rift in the brotherhood. You know what I mean? Who should we start? I bet you one of them wanted Breeze and one of them wanted Cousins, and the one who wanted Cousins is getting reprimanded with some firm spankings right now. So we'll see.
Do you think there's any finger gloves involved in that spanking?
Yes, if it was Jeff who wanted Kirk Cousins, Greg is currently at 10:22 p.m. on Wednesday. He is spanking Jeff with the finger gloves on. If he gets really mad, he takes them off. But right now, he's still got them on.
Yeah, I mean the Beaties have one of the top teams as well with Gurley and Christian McCaffrey, but that one move of benching Breeze, I mean that was just as bad as me benching Matt Ryan, except they actually could have won just with that one move. So I see brighter days for the Beatty brothers. So when it comes to our picks, I'm 8-7, Doug's 8-7, and Brian 10-5. He had a good week last week. He only got Timmy being wrong last week, so Brian's in the lead in regards to our weekly picks, and the best performance was Tommy at 137.8 points, and then Nick coming in with the worst performance in 81.4. Real quick, bye weeks. The Beauties have C-Mac and Devin Funchess from the Panthers out this week. I have AP. Scott has Jordan Reed, and Kevin has Cam Newton and Chris Thompson out this week. I think the Beaties and also Kevin are going to miss some of their veteran players. So depending upon who they're matching up against, that might be a problem for either one of them. Oh, and look at that. Right at the top of top matchups for this week, Jay versus the Beaties. So perfect timing for those bye weeks. So yeah, I'm going against the Beatie this week. That's what they call a segue. So I'm going against the Beaties this week. I don't have the game pulled up. Do you?
I do.
Go ahead.
I'm a fucking professional. Both.
I'm just going through a slideshow all by myself while also recording, but go on.
You'll be all right, bro. What do you know? Drew Brees and Matt Ryan, first two players you see here. These guys are righting the errors from last week. Jay with Dalvin Cook. I guess he plays. I don't know.
I'm actually hoping he doesn't play.
Yeah, so you can just get him out of there and make the decision easy for you.
Yep.
Allen Robinson for Jay is a guy I've talked about quite a bit. He looks good, but we've talked about Trubisky is just so fucking pitiful. So, this is a matchup against Tampa Bay that's a defense that's been getting torched. If Trubisky can't do this and Robinson can't produce, I think you're going to have to make a decision on Robinson to probably pull him down and find somebody to replace him in your lineup. Something that stands out to me here, you got some red question marks. We talked about Cook, Julio, a little banged up. Keenan Allen also did not practice today. So some questions there for you. Going over to the Beaties, some hammers with Gurley, Gronkowski, questionable to play, but I got to imagine this is a get-right situation for him against Miami, a really important game for the Patriots. This thing kind of stinks like it's going to be tight and a little bit underwhelming, to be honest with you. Outside of the quarterbacks and maybe the top running back on each team, definitely some question marks. I'm gonna take the Beaties in one of the closest matchups we've seen all year. I'll call it 113 to 111.
Yeah, paper or face value, this matchup looks like it has the potential to be like 150 to 150, but I mean, a lot of these guys haven't performed of what we thought they were going to perform in the, before the season started. Chris Hogan, Alex Collins on the Beaties end, my end with Allen Robinson, Dalvin Cook. It's I agree it's going to be tight, but I'm not going to go against myself, so I think I'm going to pull off the W, but in a close matchup. And then the other top matchup that we have this week is Doug going against Brian. This one's going to be another tight one. Like I said before, Brian's got one of the best teams in the league. I think he had a rough stretch going against the Cloblins and also the Beaties. The first 2 weeks, he actually performed pretty well, and they just performed better. But this is the week where Doug's team, instead of it just being a flash in the pan or catch it while it's hot. This week will begin what I think could be a trend. If your team pops off again, then this is going to show that this is not fake, this is not false, this is actually real. You got a little pressure for everyone to turn out pretty well, because if they don't, then I think we know what possibly could be the floor. Your team's been playing really, really well over the course of the first three weeks. So beating me last week was a good test, and going against Brian is going to be another test as well. I'm going to go with Brian this week, but would not be surprised if he pulled off another upset.
Just another march in my or another step in my march to compete for a championship, Jay. This is a big spot for both teams. Like you said, this is, if I can get to 3-1, have another 125 plus type of week, and kind of I hate to say it, but if I win this game, I kind of send Brian packing. 1-3 is a tough hole to come back from. So looking at the matchups here, I really like some of the spots for my guys, and I pulled Trey Burton up. I'm playing 2 tight ends this week. Burton's kind of underwhelmed, but again, he gets that Tampa secondary that has really just gotten fucking shredded. So I think he's kind of the swing player for me. Him, Trey Burton, and Tyler Boyd, I think, are the 2 guys who can kind of push me over the top. I think I know what I can kind of expect at this point from Mahomes and Tyreek and Kelsey. Galladay's been getting some consistent volume. Kerryon Johnson's kind of working his way into a pretty voluminous role, if you will. And then looking on the other side, some not the best matchups. I mean, Wentz against Tennessee, they should blow them out. That could mean a lot of running. Antonio Brown against Baltimore. Baltimore's a team that knows Pittsburgh really well and tends to defend Brown decently. Michael Thomas against the Giants. The Saints are going to kill the Giants. So how much does Michael Thomas really need to do? Jarvis scares me a little bit. I think he could go for like 14 grabs and 150 yards if he gets in the end zone. Could start to scare me a little bit. But I still see that guy, Amari Cooper. Not gonna buck the trend now. I'll take myself by 15, 20 points, like where my team's at.
All right, so moving on to the Limp Dick matchup of the week. And this week we have Tommy versus Scotty. We were just talking about, how well Tommy's team did this past week. The reason why it's here, it's because it's really not that exciting of a matchup. However, it does have the chance to be an exciting matchup, as long as those guys that I gave Scotty perform well again, and as long as Tommy's guys keep performing, such as Robert Woods. DeAndre Hopkins hasn't really had a Hopkins kind of game so far this year. Jordan Howard's been steady, but he hasn't had, the 2 touchdown games that he's had in the past. I think this is the Limp Dick matchup of the week, but it has the makings of being a better matchup than the other matchups that we have this week.
I agree. If you just go up and down the lineups, there's some players that underwhelm. Randall Cobb, Sony Michel, Safarian Jenkins. But given what we talked about, it could be kind of a low-scoring affair. I think that gives Scotty a decent chance here. Buffalo, Tommy's got Aaron Rodgers here. Buffalo did a pretty good number on Kirk Cousins. You wonder if they're just, riding that momentum wave, and if they can just do a little bit to subdue Rodgers. I think it gives Scotty a chance here. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to call this one a tie. I'm going to say they tie 100.3 to 100.3.
So you mean they're going to tie the 100th point? Because the quarterbacks, score 0.04 points per, I think, passing yard. So they're going to be right on the dot of 0.04 of a point in scoring.
I'm taking the tie.
I don't hate it. I'm gonna pick someone. So I'll go with Tommy. But I don't hate I don't hate the tie idea at all. So we're gonna go Kevin versus Nick. I mentioned before that Nick's gonna get his first win, but unfortunately I don't think it's gonna be this week, just because of not only the opponent, but also some of the damage he's doing to himself in his starting lineup with his starting wide receivers. I mean, Philip Dorsett could have a good game, but I mean, who knows about that? I'm trying to look down his bench to see if he could sub anybody in. He's got a couple flyer guys, but I don't think it's promising for Nick to pull off his first win, especially going against Kevin, who we just went over. Is probably going to score. He's the only undefeated team in the league, and he averages 125 plus points per game. So, unfortunately, I don't think it's this week for Nick. So I'm going to go with Kevin.
Tough spot for the Phenom here for sure. He's got some guys banged up. Burkhead was kind of a guy that he was gonna need to rely on in the flex at running back. Unfortunately, he was IR'd. What did he even do? What happened to him?
There's something with his neck. Yeah.
Not good. That's like, it was that guy for the Giants drafted that running back a couple of years ago at Virginia Tech, and he was like really explosive, and he's like broke his neck, and we never heard from him again.
Yeah, David Wilson. Yep.
Wilson. Yeah. You hope that's not the case for Burkhead, but getting IR is not a great situation. Does have Baker Mayfield. Maybe Baker goes for like 65 and he can keep it close. But even then, I think it might be a tall order for Phenom to beat the Cleveland/Barretts.
Yeah. So we'll both go with Kevin in that matchup. And then the last one is Timmy versus Sean. Sean I think he got a win either 2 weeks ago, week 2 or week 1. Can't remember when he got the win, but I don't think he follows it up with another win here. We just went over that Timmy's team had a down performance and they still scored, 115, 120 points. And that was a down week. It might have been less, I'm just guessing, but I think it was around 115 points. When Sean's got Jalen Richard and James White as his top 2 running backs, not ideal. Not ideal good. At all.
Not great.
He's going to need some blow-up games out of Tom Brady, Odell Beckham, Jimmy Graham, and I still don't think that's going to put him over the top against this matchup with Timmy, who's got, his studs of Kamara, Gordon, Adam Thielen. So, but then again, Kamara might not have a good game. I mean, against the Giants, he's probably going to have a great game. Melvin Gordon's probably going to have a great game against San Francisco. Yeah, the more I look at this, the more I think Timmy's just going to perform well and pull out another W.
I agree. I want to be able to show my man Sean some love. And
I do.
He's got some nice players, but Timmy's team's fucking loaded. I mean,
yeah.
He's just Thielen, Hilton, Kamara, Gordon is just a solid core.
And don't forget Cooper Kupp, top 25 wide receiver. So
yeah, I mean the guy's a hammer. He did score on a little bit of a broken play last week. It would have, he scored like a 50-yard touchdown. Should have gotten tackled, and he
poor
didn't.
Tackling. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's been producing. So you're right. Kupp's a nice player for him in that wide receiver 3 spot. Yeah. The other matchups here, the Eagles' defense against Tennessee. Tennessee has been putrid on offense. So we'll see. I think that's another spot where he can count on. Like there's a pick 6 happening in that game for sure. So
yep.
Yeah, I'll take Timmy there kind of handily. Sorry, Sean.
Yeah, this matchup would be different if Sean had Doug Baldwin and J.J. and also Julian Edelman. I mean, Sean's kind of hurting on his bench, so I think, brighter days are going to come soon. All 3 of those players possibly coming back next week, so we'll see how that turns out. So is there anything else you want to mention about top performers or worst performers from this week?
I did have one more take I wanted to give. In a previous recording, I told you, and you disagreed, I said that Baker Mayfield could basically be Russell Wilson. I think we saw a little bit of that. His arm is just a rocket ship.
Did you see when Jarvis Landry was surprised? Like, Jarvis has one of the best hands in the NFL, and a laser got targeted over to him, hit him in the chest, and he didn't even see it. Like, it was a bullet.
Dude, Baker is sick. Did you see the catch that Jarvis made on that? Like, he was
he jumped over the guy.
Over the dude's helmet and down at like the 1 yard line. That was a sick throw, sick catch. I think Baker has the chance to kind of take the league by storm. that division. I know you're a Pittsburgh guy. Pittsburgh's offense is awesome, but their defense is really bad. I think Cleveland's got a shot here to like make a run at the division, and if it happens, it's going to be all Baker. I want to go on record as saying I think we talked about you taking Lamar Jackson first quarterback off the board in the rookie draft, and I thought that was a mistake. I think Baker Mayfield is going to prove that week in and week out this year. I think he's awesome. He's going to finish as a top 8 per game quarterback this year.
Well, first off, it's a dynasty league. So, yeah, when I picked Lamar Jackson, I didn't think he was going to start this year. I think he showed in the preseason, although he didn't throw the ball well, he did rush for 5 touchdowns, and that's more valuable than throwing touchdowns, at least in our league. And when you say top 8 quarterback, I mean, that was something that I agreed with. I said he could be a top 8 quarterback. Russell Wilson isn't performing well right now, but he hasn't performed well in the beginning of the year in the last 4 seasons. So to put him up there, I think is a little too high. But do I think he does make Cleveland a title? I mean, not a title contender. No, that's not going to happen. It's Cleveland. But a playoff contender, definitely. And I'm shitting my pants for their next matchup against Cleveland because I could see Baker just go for like 400 yards and 5 touchdowns against the Steelers defense.
Let's get one more prop on the board. From here forward, I'll take Baker over Russell Wilson fantasy points.
I mean, are you really going out on a limb right there?
Well, according to you, I am. I said he could be Russell Wilson. You said no. So, yeah. I'm going out on a limb.
I mean, I'll take it, but...
Yeah, out of pity, you'll take it.
I mean, Russell Wilson was a top-end quarterback in previous years. He's got the potential. His offensive line isn't worse than what it was last year. It's the same offensive line, and he was the number 1 quarterback last year. So now I'm talking myself into, thinking this might actually be okay, but it's a coin flip based off of what we've seen from Baker Mayfield. So, all right, we'll add that to the list, and next week we'll go over, player performances, a recap of week 4, some more bye weeks, and week 5. Yes, the same thing. Thanks for making the listeners actually think that we're doing something different next week and getting them excited. So thanks a lot for that.
I will have another marginal take next week for sure, such as the Lions winning the division.
I don't hate it. So thanks again, guys. We'll see you again next week.
Later on.